November 15th, 2022. The world's 8 billionth person was born in the Philippines. A baby girl born in Tondo, Manila, is being considered as the symbolic 8th billion person in the world. The birth is considered to be a milestone in human development. The United Nations declared it as the Day of 8 billion. The 7th billion population mark was surpassed in 2011. So what does this population explosion mean for the world? How is it impacting various economies? Is it a boon or a bane? And where do we go from here?
With an increase in population, we are facing many problems. There is no sewer here. There are only public toilets, 10 for men and 10 for women. There are at least 5,000 people here, so there are long queues.
This is my second child. While a part of me is really happy, I also must admit I'm worried about the future. Will we be able to give them a proper education and other necessary things? The anxiety haunts me.
I think for us, it's more to do with what's working for our family. I'm happy with having only one child. I honestly don't think too much about the country's falling birth rate.
It is estimated that the global population will cross the 9 million mark by 2037, 15 years from now, and accompanying this are a host of global issues. Humans use fossil fuels to power their increasingly mechanized lifestyles. Our population growth is a major contributor to global warming. The world food import bill is estimated to rise to $1.94 trillion in 2022, higher than previously expected. The world's natural resources are being overexploited. It is dangerous for both the planet and our very existence. What's more astounding is the fact that only a handful of countries are driving us towards this growth. The latest billion people were added during the last 12 years. The United Nations noted that India was the largest contributor, as it added 177 million people during the same period. China added 73 million people. According to Pew Research Center, half of the world population still lives in just 7 countries: China, India, the US, Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Brazil. Let's take a look at how the population explosion is changing the future of the world. Meet Tang Huajun. The 39-year-old is a Chinese software developer, and he is also a doting father to a toddler. His only child is 2 years old, and he and his wife are sure they are not going to have any more kids in the future. Neither of them has any siblings. Their parents followed China's one-child policy. The controversial program was implemented nationwide by the Chinese government in 1980.
Everyone obeyed the party and the government. In our case, both my husband and I had jobs, and we followed the one-child policy. Nowadays, things have changed.
China announced it was abandoning the one-child policy by the end of 2015, after years of warnings by experts about the country's growing, aging population. It introduced a three-child policy backed by tax and other incentives in 2021. Even though the law has changed, the high cost of raising children, nuclear families, and rising housing prices are some of the deterrents for young couples. Last year, China recorded one of the lowest fertility rates in the world.
It's not easy. Unlike in previous generations, grandparents cannot help with childcare. They are either too old or live too far away. Most parents have to hire nannies to take care of their children, and obviously the more children you have, the more expensive it gets. Also, these days, many of us are getting married very late, when it's harder to get pregnant. So infertility is also a growing problem.
China accounts for more than 1/6 of the world's population, but the world's biggest nation is about to shrink. The United Nations expects China's population will start shrinking in 2023, and India will become the world's most populous country. Beijing is projected to enter a severe aging phase in 2035. An aging labor force, falling birth rates, China's demographics spell decline, not domination.
Yes, I think the China's population is at the moment is in a turning point, we can say, because population growth is actually being stabilized, is almost zero growth rate. So we have a very low fertility rate, and we expect the aging population is going to increase very rapidly. So this is I think, is very important situation facing China. It's different from 20 years ago, also different from the other either Western countries or the other developing countries. We are in a very important turning point.
Births have been steadily declining in the United States, Europe, and Japan as well. Japan, the island nation, recorded a total population of only 125.93 million on the 1st of January 2022. The country has been struggling to find ways to increase its low and declining birth rate for some time now. The government hopes that the promise of some extra cash in the bank will encourage more people to add a baby to their family. Currently, a childbirth and childcare lump sum grant of 420,000 yen, which is about $3,100, is offered to new parents after the birth of a child. This figure will now be raised to about $3,700. Will this incentive plan work?
Something's gone on culturally as well. You know, it's as if young people in Japan are frightened of marriage and having children. And I've even read, you know, I mean, what's happened to the sex drive in young people? That maybe there's something going on, just too much computer watching or something. So I don't think money's the entire solution. But having child-friendly societies and you know, definitely will help. However.
In Europe too, several nations are facing a declining birth rate. This is baby Leonard. He was born on November 12th at the Santo Spirito Hospital in Rome. Like many new mothers, Leonard's mother, Viviana Valente, is anxious. She says children are our future, in every sense of the word. But what might that future be like for them?
Let's hope he's okay. It is true we're 8 billion, but in our country, Italy, there is zero growth. We complain that young people today are no longer able to build a family due to a series of problems. So I hope that as years go by, my son will live in a society that is better than the one that we have today.
Italy's population is set to decline by almost a fifth over the next 5 decades. The country's statistics agency Istat has projected that the population will shrink from 59.2 million in 2021 to 54.2 million in 2050 and 47.7 million in 2070. Meanwhile, Italians aged 65 or over will account for almost 35% of the population in 2050, jumping from 23.5% in 2021. The country is aging at a much faster rate than its European Union peers. A shrinking and aging population is a major worry for Italy. It will lead to falling productivity and higher welfare bills, among other things.
The average number of children per woman is below replacement. In Italy, it's about 1.2. So the average woman, throughout her entire lifespan, is only having 1.2 children. And so over time, that will mean that the population will fall in Italy and in Germany and in Japan and other countries if you ignore the possibility of immigration, which to some extent can compensate.
France is also preparing for the economic and social shifts associated with an aging population. As life expectancy continues to rise and baby boomers reach old age, France is adding 3 older persons to its population every 5 minutes. In Germany, the population hit a record high of more than 84 million people this year. According to the German Federal Statistical Office, the growth was driven mainly by an influx of Ukrainian refugees. Population aging is a global phenomenon. The number of 60-year-olds is expected to triple by 2050 to 2 billion worldwide. Singapore is one of the most rapidly aging societies in the world. The country has a life expectancy of around 83 years, and the number of seniors is expected to double by 2030. The government says it is adopting a whole-of-nation approach to prepare for population aging. It is investing in facilities and programs to support the population.
Deal with issues such as retirement and healthcare and also education. So a government will typically have challenges with taxing a younger population to support an older population.
An aging population is a looming economic and social burden for many countries. India, on the other hand, has the largest youth population in the world. Around 66% of the total population of the country, more than 808 million, is below the age of 35. Can this be a boon for the country?
As we've seen the population of India grow, it has also grown in tandem with economic progress. You see there lots of people, huge proportion of share of the population being lifted out of extreme poverty. So population growth hasn't been bad for India by any means, but I foresee that India will continue to develop economically. And part of economic development is one thing that goes hand in hand with it is decreases in fertility.
We have a large population of young people, which is our advantage compared to China, where the population ratio of young and old has become very adverse for them. There aren't enough people to take care of the older people. Now, India, already 25% of our population is aging, but it is going to increase very rapidly because the young people, when their fertility declines, which is going to happen soon. Also, there are people to take care of older people in a country like India, where there's very little social security in terms of health and health for the older people and caring.
We are giving a contributor to the nation. We are giving a job maker. We are very excited about it. What will he do in the coming years? What will be his contribution to the society?
Let's look at the statistics. The youth, or those aged between 18 and 29 years old, constitute 22% of India's population. We are talking about more than 261 million people, a number that's larger than the population of Pakistan, a neighboring country. This advantage is often referred to as a demographic dividend. It is an extraordinary opportunity, one that can potentially steer the country towards unbridled economic growth. Can India seize it and take over China's position as a global manufacturing hub?
We have an opportunity to increase and improve and strengthen our economy because we have large number of young people. We also have large number of young people who can be productive. Let's see them as not numbers that are alarming us. Let's look at this huge young population. For instance, India has close to 320 million young people. Now, even if they have one child, there is going to be a population momentum fueled by them. But at the same time, what demographers call demographic dividend will come if we invest in young people and they get into jobs or participate in the economy.
The big question remains, is India ready? The country has already surpassed the UK to become the 5th largest economy in the world. And bigger economies like the US, China, Japan and Germany that are placed above India are facing unfavorable population trends. Having said that, India too is facing its own demographic challenges. Its humongous population is putting a severe strain on the country's natural resources and infrastructure.
We usually face problems like suffocation. There's a lot of crowd, you get hurt whenever your phone falls and you're not able to find your phone as well. So sometimes it's very difficult to travel from a long distance, and when trains get late, there's a lot of crowd in all of the trains.
Another major hurdle in India's growth path is the unemployment rate. It's a country where thousands of candidates apply for a single post in most sectors. To make matters worse, a vast number of young people in India lack the key skills needed to be employable.
So for young people, clearly, skilling, good quality education. We do not have good quality education in our public schools. We need to greatly improve. And we have not invested in skilling. We keep talking about the demographic dividend, but demographic dividend is not automatic.
What about the next billion? According to a United Nations report, 8 countries will be the biggest contributors. Apart from India, the list includes Pakistan, Egypt, Congo, Ethiopia, Nigeria, the Philippines, and Tanzania. While these nations are grappling with surging numbers, some other countries are underpopulated. The question of population explosion is a relative one. Does a growing population represent an opportunity, or is it an impediment? These questions take on a new urgency and relevance in a world that is finally waking up to the reality of climate change and global warming.
It's not growing exponentially. Yes, it is still growing, but at a slowing rate. So by the mid 21st century, so 2050, it's predicted that the total fertility rate in the world will be at 2.1, which is replacement level. So at that point, the population we expect to see start leveling off.
I think we should be doing everything possible to slow the rate of population growth. It's true, as a percentage, it's slowing down, but in absolute numbers, it's not slowing down. We've added that last billion, I think fast. We've gone from 7 to 8 billion, slightly quicker than we went from 6 to 7. So we have to slow down not just the percentage, but the total number. We're adding roughly 80 million people every year to the planet. So we have to feed them, we have to clothe them, we have to give them housing, we have to give them schools. This all takes resources. If we can slow it down, it makes it easier to provide those resources for those additional people, and it will also reduce the extreme poverty in the world and the capacity to be exploited.